Are you prepared to stand trial and profess your guilt or innocence before the seven?
We need to trust each other. We have so many enemies now.
The Freys and the Lannisters send their regards.
What do you want?
I thought you knew what I wanted.
Tell him what you did to her. Tell him!
Are you afraid? Good. You're in the great game now. And the great game is terrifying.
We want the Iron Islands back, basically. That's all we want. We don't want the Seven Kingdoms. We just want what's rightfully ours.
This is the lovely thing about where Daenerys is now at. She gets to meet much more of her peers. She sees people who are in a similar place of power, who have been born into a strong family. But the simplicity of what the Greyjoys want is just that they want their land, and they want to be the new generation who's coming into rule. And that's something that Daenerys understands and loves.
And that's all.
We'd like you to help us murder an uncle or two who don't think a woman's fit to rule.
Reasonable.
This is sort of like, if this doesn't work out, what are we going to do? I really can't undermine myself by being too anxious, but also the stakes are huge. And yet I think Daenerys and Yara quite like the cut of each other's jib.
There's like a little kind of like, oh, there's another badass chick in the place, okay.
Euron's offer is also an offer of marriage. You see, you won't get one without the other.
And I imagine your offer is free of any marriage demands.
I never demand, but I'm up for anything, really.
There's mild flirtation, which is exciting to say the least. I mean, get rid of Dario, bring on the ladies. Why not?
We're two strong women who've had very evil fathers, and I think we just want what's rightfully ours, and I think she respects that. And in return, we will respect what she wants and change our ways so that we can work together. It was a sort of an entente cordiale, if you like.
I know the way his mind works. I know how he likes to hurt people. Did it ever once occur to you that I might have some insight?
I think Jon's fault this year is he doesn't listen to Sansa.
She's probably had the worst time of any character on this show. And the fact that she'd been Ramsay's prisoner for God knows how long, and yet they won't listen to her, maybe because she's just seen as that young, little, incompetent sister that he'd always had, but she knows how the game works now.
It's because every time he tries to, she doesn't give him a real answer. Yes, you know him, what's your solution? She says, I don't know, but you should be doing this.
She wants what he wants, and he's formed this plan, and on paper it sounds great, but they don't have the numbers.
I always wanted to do a scene with Jon Snow, because in so many ways they're so similar, but the antithesis of each other. So it's really nice to get to sort of have the two bastards there together.
Run to your brother. The sooner you make it to him, the sooner you get to see him again. Ready? Go.
Ramsay's weapon all the way through is antagonizing people, drawing them into a trap. It's like a tunnel web spider or something, and Jon completely falls for it.
He's kind of thought, this guy's going to do something stupid and honourable because he's not going to be able to control himself. So I'll shoot his brother with an arrow. But he's waited until the perfect opportunity so that Jon Snow is within Archer's range, which will then make his army run forward and then bring them all into this perfect position where they can just all be slaughtered.
Jon isn't a great leader in that battle, and he can galvanize people to follow him. Tacticianly, he loses his temper and control.
I like the way that he's left as a sort of Napoleon-esque figure on the mountain with his generals, watching it all unfold.
Never really seen Jon give up on anyone or anything. And that was the difference in this battle. And the difference for me after coming back to life was, what if he just stops? What if the fatigue gets to him? And the first moment we found that was when the crush starts happening, and he just slows down, and he's lying on the ground, and it's that thing of finding peace for a moment. I could just stay here, I could let it all end. And then something drives him to fight up. And that moment where it comes up and he gasps for breath, reborn again in a way, which I found weirdly reflective of the moment of Dany being held aloft at the end of season 3.
It was actually a very good plan, I thought. We even had a plan for the giant one, massive long pikes to poke him down. Yeah, but unfortunately the riders came in and ruined the party for Ramsay.
I think for her emotionally, it's a big thing just because this is the first time that she's actually been able to step up and do the dirty work herself.
Their army's gone.
Our army's gone.
We have Winterfell. They don't have the men for a siege. All we have to do is wait.
It's a funny thing, and it's something that we discussed a lot, of how Ramsay feels and does he think he's lost. He kind of knows he's buggered, but he's in Winterfell, so he's okay. We were toying with that idea of Hitler in his bunker in the last days and how you start losing sight of the actual reality because you've gone too far into it. And even when Jon Snow's beating the shit out of him, he's just smiling and just going, this is great.
I actually did punch Ewan in the face twice by accident, which he took really well. He was really nice about it. So I had to buy him a pint after that one.
That was good. Jaw hurt a bit the next day, but you know, it's understandable.
It's a horrible moment when you see your hero go a bit too far. The audience should feel, yes, Ramsay's getting what he deserves. He's still getting what he deserves. This is, okay, stop. Could you stop now? You go from hating the person that's being punched, and then something should slightly turn into, oh, this is my hero becoming a monster.
Our time together is about to come to an end.
It's amazing. It's Sansa's first kill. And it's just such a strong moment for her because all her life she's been affected by these men who have just done such terrible things to her. And she's always carried it with her, and this is the first moment that you actually hear her say,
"Your words will disappear. Your name will disappear. All memory of you will disappear."
I did ask for a dragon-related death. But it's fine, dogs is alright. But in terms of story, it's a really wonderful way to end, so that Sansa has the power.
Despite appearances, I think you'll find the city's on the rise.
The city's on the rise?
The people are behind you. Well, not all the people, of course.
Daenerys, when she comes back to that situation, she has no idea what to expect. She doesn't know what's happened in Meereen. In a way, you feel for Tyrion because she left him with a terrible situation. The city was under siege from within, without, and he really did, for so long, such an excellent job of making things better there. And unfortunately, what she comes back to find is exactly what she would have expected to find when she left. And the fact that she has a city at all still is due to him.
Good. Shall we begin?
Do we have a plan?
I think Dany's been becoming a Targaryen ever since the end of season 1.
She's not her father, and she's not insane, and she's not a sadist, but there's a Targaryen ruthlessness that comes with even the good Targaryens.
Your reign is over.
My reign has just begun.
If you were one of the lords of Westeros, or one of her potential opponents in the wars to come, and you get word of what happened here in Meereen, you have to be pretty nervous because this is an unprecedented threat. You've got a woman who's somehow formed an alliance where she's got a Dothraki horde, a legion of Unsullied, she's got the mercenary army of the Second Sons, and she's got 3 dragons who are now pretty close to full grown. So if she can make it all the way across the Narrow Sea and get to Westeros, who's going to stand in her way?
I've defended the wall from worse than Ramsay Bolt.
You don't know him.
All right, tell me. What should we do? How do we get Rickon back?
I think Sansa's frustrated here because she knows Ramsay better than any of them do. There's no way Ramsay's gonna let him survive because Rickon is a threat to Ramsay's legitimacy as Warden of the North. He's a true-born Stark. There's no possible outcome where this ends well for Rickon.
From the beginning, we knew that one thing we'd never had on the show was a true medieval pitched battle, where two sides bring all the forces they can into play in some battlefield that's somehow negotiated or agreed upon, and they go at each other until one of them wins and the other one loses. This is a staple of human history, and we started to look through film examples of it. There really wasn't one that both made you feel what it was like to be there on the ground and gave you a sense of the geography of the battle.
Just to feel the kind of randomness of it, where there's arrows falling from everywhere, people are getting killed, people are getting trampled by horses, and so much of it's just luck. Jon Snow is a very skilled combatant, but part of the reason he survives this battle is just he gets lucky.
We went back to the Roman fight against the Carthaginians in the Battle of Cannae, where the Romans got caught in an encirclement by Hannibal and just slaughtered to the man. And we used that as sort of our model.
The Battle of the Bastards becomes incredibly compact, and all these men, all these combatants crammed into this incredibly tight space on the battlefield. You read accounts of battles in the Civil War where the bodies were piled so thick it actually became an obstruction on the battlefield. Even for someone we love as much as Jon, just something so dehumanizing about it. And even his look, he's so covered in blood and soot. There's like a wildness to him, especially after what he's seen. There's just no part of Jon that's not going to pursue.
Open the gate!
The initial version of the battle all took place on the battlefield, but it was the battle for Winterfell. As we talked it through, it started to occur to us that the episode is really about bringing things home for Jon, have him fight for his home in his home.
He is a deeply good human being, but he pushed anyone beyond their limits and they snap.
There's nothing he wants more than to beat Ramsay to death with his own fists. And then he sees his sister, who suffered at the hands of this man, and he realizes that this person is not his to finish.
Sansa. Hello, Sansa.
The show doesn't always give people the things that are gonna make them happy, but this felt like a moment where it made narrative sense that they would win this fight and that Ramsay would come into their possession as a prisoner.
Is this where I'll be staying now?
I don't think Ramsay realizes it's over until he wakes up in the chair. I think he's crafty enough and he's always managed to get away with everything. I think he's still hopeful that there might be some way he can connive his way out of this one too, until the very, very end.
My hounds will never harm me.
You haven't fed them in 7 days, you said it yourself.
His dogs were such a thing for him in this season and in seasons past, and such an extension of his own horrible urges, and the idea that they would be turned against him and that it would happen at Sansa's hands made a lot of sense to us.
Stop! Stop! Stop!
This isn't the little girl who wanted to dress up like a princess anymore. Her walk away at the end of the scene, and that's one of my favorite shots we've ever had. It's just the little ghost of a smile on her face. She's in Winterfell, but she's not the person she was when she first left. As soon as we wrote episode 9, we knew that it was going to have to operate on a scale that we'd never operated before.
We'd had a number of nighttime battles, we've had a number of sieges, but this is the first pitched battle, or at least the first large pitched battle. And so it was something different for us.
All of it is action with almost no dialogue and lots of horses and many extras and a giant.
The amount of supporting artists and the size of the crew, how many cameras they've got going, the magnitude of all the sets and everything. It's unbelievable.
It was hard. It was a long, long slog.
Luckily, we got Miguel Sapochnik back, who was our maestro from Hard Home in season 5.
That was basically a massacre. This is a battle. This is the story of a battle. We've never done that before.
They really wanted to kind of get into the mindset of what it would be like to be in a battle like that.
It was fluid all the way through. It morphed, it changed. But the most important thing all the way through is it can't just be a battle. If it's just a battle, the audience don't have stakes in it. You have to be following someone, and we decide to follow Jon. Ramsay's weapon all the way through is antagonizing people, drawing them into a trap, and Jon completely falls for it.
He doesn't account for Ramsay's gifts at psychological manipulation, which Sansa warns him about.
He's kind of thought, this guy is going to do something stupid and honourable because he's not going to be able to control himself, so I'll shoot his brother with a bow and arrow.
There's no way he can't gallop towards his brother, who is being shot at with arrows, and try and save him, so he falls into that trap.
But he's waited until Jon Snow is within archer's range so that they can start shooting him immediately.
He's seen his brother be killed, so he falls into the next trap of galloping towards Ramsay. Every step of the way does exactly what he wants him to do.
Probably my favorite shot of the whole season is when we're behind Jon Snow and he sees that cavalry wall galloping towards him. And part of the reason it's such a great shot is it's all real. That's 40 horses charging full speed at Kit Harington.
Until the last minute, I was stood there facing off against this cavalry charge, which is really scary. We're a bit annoyed because I think everyone's going to think it was CGI, and it wasn't.
Camilla, our horse mistress, kept asking every year. She said, give me some more stuff to do. Like, this year was boring. It's just people trotting from here to there on their horses. So finally we gave her enough to do.
I read the outline and went, wow, okay, this is adventurous. How are we going to deal with this? It's the biggest amount of horse requirement I've ever had on Game of Thrones. We flew over in May to kind of start discussing how we were going to prep it, how many horses we were going to use. We decided on 80 in the end. So when we first see both armies, we'll use 80 on the Stark side, and then we use 80 on the Boltons, so we're using the maximum. Then when we start to clash, we'll split it in half.
When we had horses charging past me, those were all real horses.
I obviously work very closely with Rowley, putting it all together. And we make channels so it looks like they're clashing, but they're not. The horses are actually just passing through, like 2-foot channels so they can clear out.
We are going to make that look as close as possible to a collision without actually colliding the horses. So in very tight formation, we'll have those guys cross and they will pull the horses as they cross through. We're falling them onto very thick falling beds so we don't injure the horses or injure the guys, but we're going to try and make that something that's not really been done before. You want it to feel crowded and mayhem and like, anything can happen anytime, but I really don't want anything to happen anytime. I want what we plan to happen and it look really cool and let's not hurt anybody.
To get across the field and follow the horses at the speed at which they're moving, and horses move really, really fast, you need a special rig, and the Russian arm is just such a fun machine to work with, and it gives you such dynamic shots.
It's basically a camera tracking vehicle. It's a remote control arm that sits on a Land Rover in our case.
Throughout the Battle of the Bastards, we had a number of tracking vehicles, one of which was the Vampire Bat with the Russian arm on it, on a muddy, slippery field over about 500 or 600 yards with very fast horses. That was the vehicle to chase them properly and get the results we wanted. They worked very well. The results were amazing.
Go! Go! Follow your commander!
You've got two giant armies that are opposing one another. You're not going to have more than a few hundred extras on one side or the other, so you've got a lot of crowd replication.
We had a lot of cavalry, a lot of infantry. 1-1, the giant is involved. Most of it would be photographed, but it also needed a lot of digital enhancement.
You've got things happening that you can't shoot in any real way. You've got a giant punching out a horse. We shoot horses falling and charging toward one another that we can use as elements, but we start to get into complex areas that we haven't really broken ground with on the series before, where it is fun and exciting, but also very challenging.
The Battle of the Bastards becomes incredibly compact. All these combatants forced into this incredibly tight space on the battlefield, partly crammed in by bodies.
You've got horses, you've got, men of either side just piled up in this massive heap.
The body pile was absolutely enormous in terms of its scale and ambition. All of those prop bodies had to be dressed in the appropriate uniforms. We had to have the shields and the flags. You then need to dress the horses in their saddlery. You need to make sure that the correct sigil is on the horse. Even though I know that all of these bodies are fake, it was deeply moving.
It's pretty grim. It's very brutal, actually, to look at. I've never seen that before, ever.
It comes from reading real accounts of these various battles, both medieval and even more modern ones. You read accounts of battles in the Civil War where the bodies were piled so thick it actually became an obstruction on the battlefield.
I think what I was finding throughout filming this was moments of giving up. And the first moment we found that was when the crush starts happening and he just stops for a moment. And then he tries to fight his way back and he gets pushed over, he gets trampled.
Jon is almost literally buried alive beneath the bodies.
He was being almost killed by his own men, not on purpose, but just in this wave of fear that kind of overcomes everyone as they try to get out of the way of this incoming wall of shields.
And then something drives him to fight up. And that moment where it comes up and he gasps for breath, he's reborn again in a way.
Winterfell's a place that really means so much in the context of the show, and the episode is really about bringing things home. The final act takes place in the Winterfell courtyard, and it ultimately boils down to Jon against Ramsay and Sansa against Ramsay.
Always wanted to do a scene with Jon Snow. It's really nice to get to sort of have the two bastards there together, facing off.
It's a horrible moment when you see your hero go a bit too far.
The only direction I gave to Kit was he's not a human anymore. He doesn't feel any sympathy, empathy for this guy. We actually spent an entire day, 10 hours, with Kit on top of Ewan, beating him. And I just shot it from every single angle I possibly could.
And what we wanted to try and get with that was that he's just kneading bread. He's just flattening this person's face, and that's what's changed in Jon for me. A monster has risen in him a bit, which I think should be unsettling for the viewers.
There's nothing he wants more than to beat Ramsay to death with his own fists, and then he sees his sister.
I think Jon then realizes, as he's about to kill him, he's on the verge of death. He realizes this is your fight, this is your guy to kill, because he understands what she's been through.
Where is he?
It's a very justified ending so that Sansa has the power in the end.
Your house will disappear. Your name will disappear. All memory of you will disappear.
It's such a strong moment for her because all her life she's been affected by these men who have just done such terrible things to her.
It's nice to get to do a final scene with Sophie after last season.
And this is the first moment that you actually hear her say, "This won't affect me and I'm stronger than that." It's my favorite scene.
Her walk away, that final shot, was so crucial, and just to get that little hint of a smile just right. I think we ended up making poor Sophie do it, 12 or 13 times in the middle of the night. It's not a big smile, it's just a little hint of a smile.
Sophie doesn't say very much, but I think it may be my favorite thing that she's ever done on this show.